Hello Flosstube, welcome back to my channel. My name is Jen and this is my fiber web where we talk about cross stitch, knitting and crochet and maybe books today if we have time. So I am Jen, like I said, this is my dog Bear. He's the star of the show. He is an expert napper and he might not move through this whole video. So just a few things out in front. We might get interrupted because I'm expecting a call from the hospital about a procedure I have to bring my son in for tomorrow, so apologies in advance if there's a weird break. And the other thing is my dishwasher is running, which is annoying, but nothing I can do about it, so sorry if you can hear that. And then finally, I meant to come back a little bit sooner at the end of January. However, I have had a rough couple of weeks. I don't really want to dwell on that too much in this video, but I will say that in my mind, I sort of feel like a bird that is like trying to find a good spot to sit on a tree, but someone keeps walking by or dog keeps barking, so the bird like lands and then flits up and goes around and lands somewhere else. That's what my brain feels like I can't find a place to land with everything that has been going on lately. So my intention for today is to find a nice spot on the solid branches of crafting and community, and I invite you to come get a cozy spot next to me and find some joy and beauty and just breathe for a few minutes. So that is all I will say about that. As far as the agenda for today, I have 11 giveaway winners from my previous video. I drew the winners for all of them. I'm going to go through those in a moment, and I hope I don't mix anything up. I think I have everything straight. I have one finished object, a handful of whips, a couple new starts, and for the second half of January, well, basically since MLK Day forward, I have not been stitching very much. I have been knitting a lot though. So I do have a handful of knitting projects that I will show towards the end. I have also been plowing through audiobooks. I think I've already finished 12 audiobooks this year. So depending on how long this takes, I might pop up my Storygraph overview for January and talk briefly about the books I finished. I have finished one already in February, so that one too. And then I do have a little bit of stitchy kindness to share later on. So let's jump in with the giveaway winners. I want to get those out of the way so that you will know if you won. If you are one of the winners, please send me an email. My email address is in the description box below. I am not spending as much time as usual on Instagram lately, so that email address would be the best way to get a hold of me, to give me your mailing address so that I can get your chart in the mail to you. Okay. So I did note down how many people entered each one of the giveaways. There was a wide variety of things I was giving away, and I knew that some of them would be more popular than others. So I did want to share how many people entered while I go through the winners. So the first one that I have to show you is A Tearful Little Girl by Orenco Originals. There were 4 people who were interested in this chart, and the winner is Jessica Maslovsky. So I will put that comment up on the screen, and you are the winner for this. Congratulations. Next, we had this John Clayton's Elegance Heritage Crafts chart. The keyword for this was hat. There were 5 entrants, and the winner is Hope84114, so congratulations. I don't know if I said this last time, but doesn't she look like Keira Knightley? I think she does. Okay, next we have this Sarah E. Pope Sampler 4 from Sheepish Antiques. The keyword for this was Pope. 8 people entered for this, and the winner is Makes Stitches. Next, I have this Bouquet of Pansies chart from the Lilac Studio. Keyword for this was pansy. There were 10 entries, and the winner is Lady Marmalade and Stitches. Congratulations. There were also 10 people interested in this Brenda Keys chart called Heaven Doth Ask Sampler. And the winner for this one is CT Perp. Congratulations. Next we have a Twin Peak Primitives chart. The keyword for this one was twin, and there were 16 people interested in this, and the winner is made by Anna. Also, I wanted to say, I wasn't sure what I was going to do if multiple people won, or no, if the same person won multiple charts, but that didn't happen. Like, the comment picker didn't choose the same person, so I didn't have to worry about that, if you were wondering. Okay, next is this Little House Needleworks Peace on Earth chart. There were 31 people interested in this one, and the winner is Paula Beeman. Congrats. Then we had 35 people interested in this February Quaker by From the Heart Needle Art by Wendy, and the winner is J. Forrester 95. Next we have Jardin Privé Patchwork Printemps, or Spring Patchwork, and we had 39 entries for this one, and the winner is A.L.Z. Parker. Congrats. Sorry it's blurry because it's focusing on me. Okay, 2 left. This is assembly required by Ink Circles, and this is the one where I'm going to send you my leftover DMC variegated floss. There were 41 people interested in this, and the winner is Allie Renee CST. Go check Allie's channel out if you haven't. She's a delight. And she's in the Midwest too, I believe. Pretty sure. Okay, and then the last one, the most popular giveaway, was the Gather In by Plum Street Samplers. 49 people entered for this one, and the winner is Kimberly Pham 5347. So congratulations, Kimberly, and everyone else. If you could please email me, I will attempt to get those all in the mail promptly. Okay, so those are the giveaways. I am going to jump next into my one finish. This is a chart that I designed myself. Let me find something to put behind here. So I'm calling this Little Owl's Night. There is a board book that I could not find called Little Owl's Night that I used to read to my kiddos at bedtime, my bigger kids. I think it must have gotten destroyed at some point because I couldn't find it anywhere. But it's a very sweet book that has an owl, possums. It has a bunch of animals and also moonflowers, morning glories. It's like the transition from nighttime to daytime because the little owl is going to sleep. And it's just like very gentle words in the book, and I love all of the images. And I saw the Night Garden palette for Cross Stitch the Rainbow project, where there's a bunch of designers that are designing charts using that color palette. So these colors were inspired by that. They're not the same. Like I think I just used DMC for all of my colors, and like I used a light brown where the palette they have is a little bit more purpley. So, but I did use 4 colors, and I was inspired by that palette, and I just sort of wanted to see what I could come up with. And I designed a few charts, and this one was my favorite, so I stitched it up. So this is a blue moonflower. I actually looked up some flowers that bloom at night, and I've got some little moths, which there are some pretty white moths in Little Owl's Night. The owl in that book is orange, so my barn owl is obviously different. And then I put a possum in. He has blue ears because I couldn't get his ears to show up without making them a different color. And obviously possums don't have blue ears, but I think he's cute. So anyway, I just made that in Max Stitch, and then I have designed a few other things in Max Stitch, but this is the first one I actually wanted to stitch, so it took me like, a day or 2 to finish that up. I think I'm either going to make it into a little pillow or possibly have it be like part of a panel for a project bag. So we will see. Okay, so that was my only finish, I believe. And then Let's go through the whips that I have worked on. So the first one that I have to show you is Hannah Attwater. This is by MommaLovesYouGB. I just have the digital chart, so I will put a picture up of what it looks like. And if I have a progress pic, I will show you. This is a stitch along hosted by Carolyn from Evertotes, and it started in November, but I started late, so I'm sort of following her. Carolyn's, she broke up the pattern, so I'm sort of following what she's doing, but not really. So I started in this corner, and I worked on that in December, and then in January I got this big center motif done with the flower pot, and pulled the border over. So this is over 20% done already, according to Pattern Keeper, and obviously if you break this down into 12 months, that means I would be ahead of schedule percentage-wise, but I am behind if you consider the assignments from Carolyn. But I'm just going to kind of keep going by percentage. So this month I will try to get another good chunk of this done. I haven't worked on it yet in February. I'm using the called for DMC colors, of which there are only like 8 or 10. There's not that many. And this is a 40 count kiwi linen from Fiber on Whim. And I love how these colors are looking. I didn't have to change anything. I love them on this green. The camera doesn't know what to do with this, but I love it. So that's one. I also worked on one of my other stitch-alongs that's been broken up for us by Annie from XO Needle and the Hay XO. This is Quaker Christmas Stocking and Sampler by Kathy Barrick. So Annie is giving us little chunks like every 2 weeks or so, I think. And she's doing that both for the stocking and the sampler. She's stitching both. I think I'm going to make the stocking, however I started in the starting spot for the sampler because that's what I wanted to do. So I'm again making my own directions from instead of doing what someone else is telling me. But I think this got me caught up with, I think I might be one assignment behind now. And mine is also a little bit different because if I've started a thread, I want to finish it. So like I think that's why I have these white lines in here, because I just had more of the white left. And I am using the called for silks, so NPI silks on the called for fabric, which is 40 count wheat. So yeah, I really enjoy working on this. I need to get this out and see what Annie's most recent assignment was. I think it just came out. I think I saw it, a flash of it maybe on the internet. I haven't actually looked at what I need to do. So I consider myself caught up with both of those projects. I also, the other thing that I was working on before MLK Day was a new start that I'll show you in a second. And then all my stitching just sort of halted. One day, I was inspired to work on my Reindeer from Cottage Garden Samplings because my friend Alex from Select Stitches finished hers. However, this project is in the naughty corner a little bit because, as a lovely viewer pointed out to me, there's a charting error in this Reindeer, and it happens to be in a spot that I already finished stitching. So let me show you, and I will ask your opinion. So in the antlers, there's like an antler highlight color, which on mine is this like creamy white color. And the error is in the chart on that highlight color. It's supposed to be bright leaf, which is like one of the medium tone browns. So if you look at the antlers on here, you can see that this highlight color is not white or cream. It's like the color, one of these colors in the deer's fur. So do I leave it and just say these antlers are super shiny because it's a very sunny day and leave it? Or do I pick out all of that creamy color and fix it and make it the right color? So I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I think I might leave it for now and keep working on the deer, and that is what I tried to do when I pulled this out earlier in January. but I think I got like half of one strand in on this and I just was done. I wasn't feeling it. So I didn't get very far. So let me know what you think about the antlers. And thank you to the viewer who pointed out that there's a charting error, because I didn't know. Okay, and then after I worked on that, it was like another week of not working on any stitching until I decided I felt like doing some full coverage. So I got out this piece, which is called Skogafoss number 2. It is by Cross Stitch the Globe, who is Stephanie. So this is from the Cross Stitch of Ice and Fire booklet, which are photographs that Stephanie took at real-life locations where Game of Thrones was filmed. And this is the one where I was doing this extreme cross-country from the least used color to the most used color. But when I got it out this time, I decided to stop doing that. I put in the 310. I started working on the sky color, as you can see up here. And then there's a couple of grays in the water down here that I was working on. Basically, I have my DMC floss drops all on binder rings, just like by number. So I just pulled one of those out and I was doing whatever colors were in the chart that were on that ring to make it less I don't know, just to make it easier on myself at that time. So this is over a third of the way done now. I think it's like 34.5%-ish. And I'm doing this 2 over 1/10 stitch. I think this is 28 count. Easy guide. So I'm very happy with this. I think I worked on it for 2 or 3 days this past week. And then the other whip that I have to show you is my Long Dog Leap Day start, which is Froth and Bubble. There are 2 Froth and Bubble charts that Jules charted. This is the first one. And I would like to get this to 25% by the end of this month so that I am on track to finish it by next Leap Day in 2028. And right now I am at, let me see, I wrote it down. I think I'm like 18%. Yeah, I'm almost 18% done. So I think last time I showed it to you, the top row wasn't completely filled in. So I'm going band by band now for this, which is not how I started, which is why the butterflies are already colored in a little bit, but I'm going to do all the black in this next band and then put all the colors in. I need to bring the blue down on the edges, and then the next line of the poem will be underneath this part. But I really love working on this project. It goes pretty quick. I'm doing it 2 over 2 on a 32 count. I think it's 32 count. Oh, the stickers here, yay. 32 count vellum Belfast linen from Picture This Plus. So I am using a mix of the called for overdyes and the called for DMC. I chose whichever color was brighter of the 2 because, you know, overdyed floss dye lots can differ, and I wanted mine to be bright like it was in the photograph, and some of the overdyed colors that I got were like very pastel-y. So I think most of my palette is DMC, but a few of them are overdyes. So I'm loving this, and this is going to be my focus until I get to that 25% mark. And then I have 2 new starts to share with you. One of them is a round robin piece that I'm doing. So this is the Carolyn Manning round robin, where we each chose a chart in the bouquet collection. This collection is really cool for a round robin because each chart only has between like 8 and 12 colors, and it is like this mandala style where each it's like symmetrical both ways, so you can break it up into quarters very easily. So this is Justine from the Shaky Stitcher. This is her piece. It's called Fern Frond. And as you can see, I am the last one to work on this. So Justine and Natasha from Britches Get Stitches and Brittany from Brittany on Instagram have all completed their quarters of this. And I'm working down here. This is 1 over 1 on a 28 count linen that I believe Justine, like, coffee tea dyed herself. So I knew that this was 1/1 on 28 count, but I didn't realize, like, how small this is compared to the other ones that I've been working on. So as you can see, I had this in a hoop. So I've been working on this in my Lowry stand, and I was just doing like a strand a day, but that was, in the beginning, that was like a couple days. I worked on it a couple days, and then it just sort of sat for a while. So eventually I will get back to doing a strand a day on this, I think. I like this one. So since it's Fern Frond, this one has more greens than most of them, and just a couple blues in there, and I love this palette as well. And then I was going to show you the colors. I mean, you can see all the colors in there, but also I think Justine's partner 3D printed these floss drops for her, so these are cool. So this one, I'm excited to get it done because I get to actually complete that project and then send it to Justine. But some of that, like, smaller stitching lately has not been on my radar since I've been sort of overwhelmed with things. The easier stitches have been calling to me, if anything. And then I have one more new start. I decided to start the 2025 Fox and Rabbit stitch along, the mystery stitch along. So if you don't know, Fox and Rabbit does a free mystery stitch along every year, but you have to download the charts in that year, and then after the year is over, it becomes a paid pattern. So you can go see their previous ones and purchase them if you would like. And I have, for a couple years, I've been downloading the free stitch alongs, but I haven't actually stitched any of them. And I decided that this year was the year. So, here's my start. This is a giant piece of fabric because this is a big chart. It's called Cloister Garden. I don't know if I said that already. I think it's like 300 some, it's square, so it's like 330 or something like that stitches each way. So I had to buy a half yard of fabric to fit this on. And this is, what is this? I think this is just antique white linen. And it's either 36 or 40 count, I don't remember. I think it's 36 count, so I'm doing it 1/2, and I am using a variegated silk from Silks For You. This is what it looks like. I shared on Instagram how I cut this up and got it ready to use. And I have had this in my stash for a little while, and I couldn't figure out what to do with it because it's got some very light tones and then also some pretty dark ones, so I wasn't sure what fabric I wanted to put it on. I tried to see if there was a green I could put this on, and I didn't like how it looked with the options I've had over the past few months every time I tried to come up with an idea. So I just decided to get white and let the floss shine. So I'm obviously behind. I did not finish the first chunk, and now the second part is out, which is just like a border around this middle square. And I was obviously like doing some color management for the center of this to make it look normal in the center of the piece, but I don't know that I'm going to continue trying to manage the colors for the rest of the piece. I might just sort of let them go how they want. But since this is the center, I wanted it to look symmetrical. Oh, and then I meant to say, funny story. When I got my round robin piece from Natasha in the mail, she included another thing, which was actually some stitchy kindness for me from Janet, who was the winner of a shawl giveaway that I did. She had sent me a Christmas card with an ornament that she stitched herself, but a funny thing happened. I had reused the packaging that Natasha sent me for a previous round of the round robin to send the shawl to Janet, and so when she was sending me this card, she actually grabbed Natasha's address instead of mine. So Natasha got the mail addressed to me at her address. So before I had even known about this, Natasha just tucked this in and it was already in the mail to me. So Janet sent me this very pretty Christmas card. I love this. So peaceful and bright. And she sent me this. Here. This is an heirloom Santa, so it looks like a Mill Hill, but it's not. And here it is. Isn't he handsome? So he's on perforated paper. He obviously has a fun 3D beard. He's got a little bell. And yeah, he'll definitely go on my Christmas tree next year. So I thought that was super sweet. And Janet mentioned that not a lot of people know about these heirloom Santas. So they're from Wilmar Crafts Corps. I don't know. I don't know if you can still get these or if these are like a vintage thing. But he's adorable. So thank you so much, Janet. You did not have to do that. But I love him. Okay. So that was all my stitching. If you watched my last video, you would know that I made a ton of plans for myself for January. So I did want to follow up on what happened with the remaining plans that I had. Because I definitely did not finish all of them. Let's see if I can find my spreadsheet where I was keeping track of my plans. I was so done with plans, I just got rid of the spreadsheet entirely. No. Oh, there it is. Okay. So I had a bunch of goals for January for the stitch-alongs that I just showed you that I did keep up with. I did work on my Fancy Lady for the month for Allison's birthday stitch-along. I worked on my kit that I spun on the wheel, which was Mallard Ducks Walking. Let's see, I worked on both of my Halloween spins. I did work on 324 by Works by ABC, which was one of my Whip Go calls. My other Whip Go call was the Herbalist Stitch Along by World on a String by Dara. I did not touch that, so that goal I did not reach. I also had a goal to get 2,000 stitches into my full coverage spin for the month, which was Absorbing the Earth and Sky, and I did not get 2,000 stitches in on that. I also wanted to work on the Fabulous Houses Castle, which I did not work on because I still haven't decided if I want to do Santa's house and the castle right next to each other, which is how I started it, or if I want to do them all separate. So if I'm going to do separate pieces, I need to frog and restart the castle, and that just, I didn't feel like dealing with that. And then I showed you the Reindeer from the Year in the Woods. I was hoping to finish that one and start the next one in that series, and obviously that didn't happen either. So I did a decent job on my goals, and oh, the other one is Froth and Bubble, to keep up with that. I don't think I quite made it to my goal, but I'm still on track to be able to finish it by the end of this month. Not finish it, get to 25% by the end of this month. Oh, I also have the White Winter Moth, which is my snow day piece, and I have not been working on that. It has snowed a couple times, but right now it's like 50 degrees here today, so there's not any snow. And then the other thing that I had as a maybe goal was to start the Briar from Sprouting Lupin, and I did not do that. So I did a decent job on my goals. I did get a lot of stitches in, but I also stopped counting them. I wanted to see how many stitches I could actually do in a month because I've never kept track, and so I know how many I can do in a couple weeks, but it was also a weird couple of weeks, so I still don't have the information. Maybe I will restart a different month and try to actually count how many I do all month. Okay, so plans that I'm going to stick with for this month are I'm going to work on my moon phase bell pull on the full moon, which I believe is the 12th of this month. You know, I'm going to focus on my long dog sampler. aside from that, I do want to spin. I still haven't spun for February to see what my focus pieces are for Halloween, Fancy Lady, or full coverage, but I'm not really feeling that structure anymore. So I think I'm going to just stick with a couple things that I know I want to do, like the Moonface Bell Pull and the Long Dog Sampler, and then I'm just going to see where the month takes me. I think that feels right for me right now. So my rigid plans lasted for part of 1 month. Maybe they'll come back later. We'll see. Okay. So now I'm going to switch to knitting. So if you've been around my channel for a while, you may know that when I get stressed out, I sometimes just switch back to knitting because that is easier for me usually. Which I say that, but the project I worked on the most, I think, this month, I will show you. Let me make sure I'm not going to throw all my stitches off the needle. This is the Ballad Pullover by Sari Nordlund. So like this is not easy knitting. This is knitting where I do have to read the chart. But it was the right amount of comfort with the motion and distraction for my brain to pay attention to the chart. So like sometimes cross stitch feels like too much. Like it's too much looking at the chart and counting and moving around, and I don't want to do it. With this, I can look at the chart as I keep knitting. Like I can keep my hands moving. I don't have to stop and check and count and move around and change colors. So like this is more therapeutic for me, I think. Not that cross stitch isn't. This is just more. So I started this, I don't remember when I started it. This has been, the Ballad pattern has been in my stash for a while. So has this yarn. This is Nurtured from Julie Asselin, and the colorway is Poems 2. I'm not sure that you can still get this color. I think this yarn, like the colors sort of rotate out, and also it doesn't ever show up on Instagram, but this is one of the yarns where I think the wool is dyed before it is spun into the yarn. So it has all these different bits of color in here. So it's very fun to see those different blips of different shades of pink and tan and brown, and sometimes like blue or lavender. It's fun to see those pop up as you're knitting. But then from afar it just sort of looks like a regular neutral shade. So this is by Sari Nordlund. She has a collection of sweaters. There's Poet, Poetria, Ballad, and they all have a similar lace motif, but they're using different weights of yarn. So this is the Aran weight. I have the DK weight one started as well, but I'm much farther on this because it's Aran weight, so it goes faster. So yeah, you cast on at the neckline and just jump right in to doing the lace and getting your sleeves started. I don't know how many days I worked on this, but I enjoyed it very much. It was exactly the right amount of difficulty to keep me engaged and stop my brain from wandering. So I have that one. And then when I got bored of working on that, I decided to start a shawl. So this shawl is called May I Borrow This Please is the name of it. And who is it by? It is by Lorraine Waitman. And I think this might be a free pattern on Ravelry. Oops. So it uses 3 colors of DK weight yarn. And you could also probably do this in 1 color in like a single skein, which maybe is what the pattern actually is. Let me look. I feel like I'm lying to you. May I borrow this, please? Okay, so the original models, like the pattern photos on Ravelry, show it with a gradient yarn or all one color or multiple colors like what I'm doing, or like using hand spun or something. So I chose to use these 3 colors. They were all leftover yarns from other projects that I've made in the past. So I started in this corner, and there's just like a bunch of stockinette, and then there are some garter ridges, some eyelets. I sort of faded the color in the garter section so that the 2 colors kind of mesh together. There's this chain stitch right here, which is also very simple, just involved, it's a simple method. There's nothing crazy in there. So if you can knit and purl, you can do this. And it was just a mix of those different textures to the end. So I have not washed or blocked this yet. It will like stretch out a little bit widthwise, but here's the gist. I had picked these colors out for a different chart and decided I didn't want to do it, not chart, pattern. So just made this. I have a problem where my winter coat is like the same color as my favorite accessories. So it's like an army green color, and my favorite hat is my muscle burrow, which is army green, and I need some stuff that isn't that color so I don't look like just one monochrome weirdo all the time. Okay, another project I've been working on is sort of boring, but I'll show you anyway. This is my Porty pullover. It's a pattern by Gudrun Johnston, who is the Shetland trader. And I have shown this before. I have had the color work in the yoke done for quite a while, and I'm stuck working on this body. It's so boring. It's a fingering weight yarn, and the needles are small. Let's see. This is a US 3 or 3.25 millimeters, so it takes a long time, especially compared to like that Aran weight sweater. To do one round takes like forever. And this yarn, for some reason, it doesn't slide very well on the needles. It wants to grip on, even though I am using slippery metal needles. So it's like annoying I have to constantly like manually move the yarn. It doesn't just glide around. But I really want the finished object. I love this yoke. It was very fun to knit. I love the colors in it. So I want this to be an FO that I can wear and use. But I have about 8 inches done on the body, and I need to go to like 12 inches before I start the ribbing, according to the pattern. However, when I knit, my row gauge is always looser, so it's more important to get stitch gauge than row gauge. So what I'm trying to say is, like, my yoke is taller than what it says in the pattern because my individual stitches are taller. So to get the same, when I knit the same number of rows, my object is taller. So that means that the underarm of my sweater is like down a little bit lower than the designer intended, so I might not need to knit quite as long for this to fit me. So at some point soon I will just try this on and see how close it is to needing ribbing. This has been a whip for like, I don't know, 5 or more years. So I've been trying to keep this out, so if I'm just like watching a movie or something, I can work on this because I literally don't have to look at it at all. I'm just knitting a forever spiral. The only time I have to think is when I run out of one skein and I have to add another. So that's that, and my stuff is all tangled up here. Okay, I'll show you this one next. I only worked on this one time during a Stitchy Zoom that I did. This is my U David blanket. This is a Lion Brand yarn pattern. They had a Schitt's Creek yarn line. I don't know if they still do or if that's over. I know they got made fun of for it, but I thought it was fun, so I bought the kit. I think I had like rewards at whatever store I bought it from, so there's not much to see. I started at the bottom, so I have these white stripes done, and you have to just knit stockinette black for like 8 inches before you start the letters. And I will say this pattern doesn't really tell you how to do the letters, so these are not very conducive to normal color work where you would like carry the yarn in between the letters. Like you don't want to carry the white all the way between the V and the I, for instance, or even just like across this D. That's a lot of stitches to carry the white. So I think I'm going to do intarsia, but it doesn't tell you to do that or how to do that. I already know how, so I think that's how I'm going to do it. But that'll be fun to figure out. I have done intarsia, but always with like instructions on where, I think, instructions on like where to start new strands. So I'll have to figure that out myself. But yeah, worked on that. This is good Zoom knitting. Okay, I have one more knitting project. This last one is a shawl that I have had started for quite a while, but I haven't put much effort into until recently. So this is called the Cloudbreak shawl. It's by Melanie Berg. So it's a triangle shawl. You start in this corner and you just increase and increase and increase forever until you get to this rainbow section. So each row of this is a different color, and I am using like a sort of muted rainbow palette. There are 11 shades, so there's like black and a couple of grays, and then yellow, orange, there's some red and purple and blue, and then it ends with green. So maybe it would be easier to, oh yeah, you can kind of see the colors better on the back side. And this stitch is also pretty simple, but I had never done it before. So I always love when I can find a pattern that has a new to me technique. It keeps me engaged, and that is part of the fun for me as like a process crafter, to try something new. So I did that first rainbow part, and then there was another chunk of just plain main color garter. And now we go through the rainbow twice, and then there's another little section of the main color, and then you bind off. So this is probably maybe halfway done or a little bit more. And the main color for this is, I think, one of my favorite yarns ever. This is the Fiberco Cumbria fingering weight. They also have a worsted weight for this. And the color is Blend Cathra. And this yarn is 90% wool and 10% mohair. So it's got like a little bit of a fuzzy halo effect, but it's not like, it's less than if you were to hold mohair together with something, and it's also less itchy. Like it just feels soft and a little fuzzy, and I love it. And I love that this also, I love like the color shifts, the subtle like cream and gray in here. So I love this. I love working on it. It's very fun. All the colors, all the rainbow colors I'm using are also little balls of scrap yarn, so that's very satisfying to use those up. I think you use less than 10 grams of each of those 11 colors, so you can pull together whatever you want if you want to make that. So I think that's everything. Oh, no. Okay, crochet. I shared this on Instagram, and I'll have to put a picture in, but I finished this blanket. So, I shared it on Instagram, and I showed it like laid out on a bed, and I didn't say, but it was a king-size bed. So it's not a king-size blanket, like it doesn't go over the sides, but it pretty much covers the top of a king-size bed. And this is all just simple granny stripe. However, there's a free pattern you can follow if you want to do this same, if you want to see how they did this exact striping pattern and using this yarn. There's a free pattern on a blog that you can follow. I will put the name of it, or maybe link it in the description if you're interested. And then it just has a, what is this? I don't remember if this is a single crochet border or half double crochet. I think it's half double crochet border all the way around all 4 sides. So the pattern tells you like when you're on the side, like how many, like it says do 2 of the border stitches for each row. But other than that, it's just a granny stripe blanket, so you don't really need a pattern. But the pattern did use this yarn, which is from Michaels. It is Karen Blossom Cakes, and I used 4 different colors of the gradient stuff, and then there's, well, this is gradient too. The white color is also Blossom Cakes. So there's 5 colors, including the white. 5 different colorways. I don't know if that made any sense, but this is done, and it's big, and it's squishy, and it's lovely. I didn't wash it or block it, since it is big box, and it is not wool. I'm worried that if I wash this, it's just going to get super fuzzy and weird. So for right now, we're just using it as is. That's all the yarn stuff. How far in are we? 45 minutes. Should we talk about books? Okay, here's what I'll do. I'm going to put up the graphic from Storygraph. So I deleted my Goodreads. So if you were following me on there, sorry I disappeared. But I am now on the Storygraph with the same name. So I will put that in the description if you want to find me on the Storygraph. And there's an option on there where you look at your monthly recap where you can get like a collage of the covers of the books. So that's what I'm showing you now. So the first 2 books that I finished this year were part of the Stormlight Archives by Brandon Sanderson. Oathbringer is book 3, and then Dawn Shard is book like 3.5. So there are a couple shorter books that go in between the other ones. Dawn Shard is one of those. There's also one that went between book 2 and 3, I think, but I can't remember the name of it. So this is the first Brandon Sanderson series that I have read, and I absolutely love it. It is like sprawling, high fantasy. There's like really good world building, really good character development. There are 2 main protagonists. There is a man who grew up as, he was being trained by his dad to be a surgeon, but he also had like inner desires to be a soldier. And then he does become a soldier. He basically gets punished and branded as a slave for doing the right thing. And so we're following sort of like his redemption arc as he uses his soldier and surgeon skills to become useful and very important in an effort that's happening in this giant world that is at war with, evil, maybe. And then the other protagonist is a woman who her family has hit hard times, and she has struck out from home with a sort of crazy grand scheme to try to save her family. And it turns out she has a lot of talents that she's not super aware of that are very useful, and the 2 protagonists do cross paths at some point. There are like magical beings, there are magical powers, there are very bad guys, and as like any good fantasy series does, it really taps into a lot of big themes around like power and corruption and personal morals and motivations, and I just love it. I love the characters. There are a lot of very strong female characters in this series. Yeah, so I just started listening to this series like at the end of last year, and I know there was a new book recently that people were very excited about, and I'm late to the game, so I'm just sort of leisurely getting there. Book 4 I already have. I think I got it on Audible maybe, so that one is ready for me, but I wanted to take a break from that series since the books are very long. Like the in-between books are short, but I think the last book I read was like 40 or 50 hours on Libby. So the audiobook is very long. Obviously the actual book is also long. Anyway, so I wanted to take a break from those, and I listened to The Art of Living, which is a very short book by Thich Nhat Hanh, who is a famous Vietnamese monk. He is a peace activist. He met with people like MLK Jr. and other world leaders throughout his life. It was very interesting to me on MLK Day. I saw some quotes shared from Martin Luther King Jr. that sounded very much like paraphrases of some of the stuff that Thich Nhat Hanh teaches, and I was sort of curious if MLK was influenced by Thich Nhat Hanh, or if they both sort of came to these ideas themselves and just shared these opinions. But it's basically a book about his opinion of what Buddhism is, like deep Buddhism, not popular Buddhism or like strict Buddhism. It's what he believes like the core teachings of it are, and I thought that that was very interesting to listen to, and it has some good reminders for ways to find some calm and connection if you're interested in that. Next, I listened to The House at Watch Hill, which I think is the first book in a series about a woman who is struggling and suddenly finds out that she has this huge inheritance that includes a giant mansion in this town that is far away from where she lives. So she is set to inherit like a bunch of money and the property, but the stipulation is she has to live at the house for at least 3 years before she gets this stuff. And this is like, there are magical things going on. The house seems to be like alive in some way. And so this is the story of her like figuring out what is going on with this house and what's going on in this town. It was like entertaining, but it wasn't my favorite book. I think I gave it 2 out of 5 stars. Whereas, yeah, Oathbringer and The Dawn Shard I gave 5. Also, The Art of Living I gave 5 stars. But it was a nice, The House at Watch Hill was a nice, like, escape from reality sort of a book, which is what I needed. Next, I read Phantom Limb. So I think a couple other Flosstubers have talked about this book lately, which is maybe where I found out about it. This one is very, very dark. All of the trigger warnings. It's got everything. It's very dark. It revolves around mental health. I think that the idea of the book is interesting. However, I don't know if it's like clinically sound, the premise of the book, and I can't say that I really loved this book. It was like gratuitous abuse in many different forms, and yeah, it was one of those books that's like trying to out-twist its own twists, I think, if you catch my drift. So I think I also gave that one 2 stars. However, the next book I listened to was Nettle and Bone by T. Kingfisher, and I loved it. This is a fairy tale. There is a girl that basically goes on like a classic sort of fairy tale mission to try to get help from like an old crone type, and is set like 3 impossible tasks that she has to complete to get her help, and she's not supposed to be able to complete them, but she does. One of those tasks is to create a dog out of bones, so she does, and the dog comes to life, but he's made out of bones, and she names him Bone Dog, and I love Bone Dog. He's my favorite character in the book, and I don't want to say too much about it because I didn't really know what it was going into it, and I thought it was a delightful story. I loved it, and I think you should listen to it if you're into sort of a dark fairy tale. The next book that I read is The Darkest Part of the Forest, which is also fairy tale themed. However, this is a young adult novel, and it follows a brother and sister duo who are like high school age, who feel like they have some magical stuff going on, and there's also this like fae boy that who's been in this glass casket in the forest for like decades, and surprise, he escapes from the casket, and our protagonist is pretty sure that it's her fault, but she doesn't really know. And so there's this whole story about her figuring out what has been going on with her and what her role is in this whole magical fairy tale land that she did not previously know about. And the cool thing about this is like the way it's written feels very current and realistic. Like they're going to school and they're going to parties with their friends and they're like arguing about normal stuff, and then there's just also this like magical stuff going on. So it feels less like some books there's like the current day and then the characters get like swept away into fairyland where everything is different, but this is more like meshed together well with current times, if that makes any sense. So that was a fun book to listen to. Next, I'm not sure if this is a Storygraph thing or what, but I actually listened to Olive Kittredge for the second time. I had read it like 8 years ago or something, I think. So I listened to that again so that I could listen to the second book in that series, which is Olive again. But it didn't show up on my... I don't think it's counting as reading a book in my Storygraph, like, metrics. And that might be because of the way that it, like, imported stuff from Goodreads. So anyway, the point is there's a book missing on here that I did listen to, but it was the second time that I read it. So, what can I say? Olive Kittredge is an interesting book. It's like a collection of short stories that happen in this town, and some of them are directly about Olive Kittredge and other ones are not, or she shows up as like a side character, but they're all sort of telling the story of this woman and also this town that she lives in. This is also a sort of dark book. Olive has just like human struggles with her family members and in her community. She's a teacher in like a smaller community, so she knows a lot of the families and a lot of the people. And then Olive again it takes place after that, so she's older, and the books like sort of jump around in time. It's not all chronological, so like we'll have a short story about Olive, and then the next one will happen like a couple years later. So I like the books. I think the first one won the Pulitzer Prize. I don't want to say too much about it. Like if you're interested in sort of like deep dive into human psyche, just like dealing with normal life and relationships and stuff like that, then maybe you would like this one, or this pair of books. And then I listened to We Used to Live Here, which is like a horror book that I don't want to say much about in case you want to listen to it. I will say it was not my favorite book. There's like a couple buys this house and they're going to fix it up, and when one of them is there and the other one is out, this family comes and knocks on the door and says that they used to live there and they want to come in and look around, and then basically like she can't get rid of them, and then bad things start happening, dangerous bad things, violent things, confusing things. There's like doubts about people's sanity. Is magic going on? Are people losing their minds? We don't know. That's this book. And then I listened to On Tyranny, which the subtitle is 20 Lessons from the 20th Century. This book was written during Donald Trump's first presidency, and I did not read it then, and it is a little bit sad to read it now, knowing how things have progressed since then. But still an interesting read and very timely if you want to focus in on what is going on politically. And then I did just finish one more book that is not on here because I finished it in February. It is called Spitting Gold. And honestly right now I can't even remember what it was about. So I listen to most of my audiobooks on Libby. So I have like on any given day, I probably have a hold list that is maxed out. So there's like a maximum of 10 holds you can place at a time. And that list is usually maxed out for me. So when books come up, I try to listen to those. I prioritize those first since they are free and they have a due date. And then I also have a backlog of books that I have purchased on Audible and not listened to yet that I am trying to work my way through. So some of the ones on the list were those. And then Book of the Month is like a monthly subscription box. I had joined it many years ago when it was physical books, and then I stopped because I had a whole section on my bookshelf of Book of the Month books that I hadn't read yet. And then they started doing audiobooks. So I rejoined so that I could do audiobooks. And so with those I have been keeping up pretty well with the audiobooks, but I do have I think 3 or 4 left now in that platform that I have not listened to, and I hate their platform for audiobooks. The actual like listening to the actual book is fine. You can pause it and fast forward it, and you can change the speed like you can on Audible or Libby. However, it has this dumb thing where you can't back up out of the current chapter. So, like, if a new chapter starts and you realize you weren't listening and you need to back up, you have to, like, go into the chapter menu and go back to the previous chapter because it won't back up past the current chapter. That's one problem. The second problem, and the actual problem, is, like, there's no way to sort your books or archive the ones or mark them read after you've read them. They're just all in one queue, and you have to, like, when you go into the app, it only shows you your 3 most recent audiobook purchases, and if you want to listen to one behind that, you have to go into, like, show me more, and then scroll down and find it every single time. And also, like, I often have to pause my audiobook because, you know, life is happening and I need to address life. And with Libby and Audible, whenever I'm done addressing life, I can just unpause it and it keeps going. But for some reason, the Book of the Month app has, like, a short timeout where it just closes you out of the book. So then when I want to unpause it, it's not open anymore, and I have to go back in and find it again, and it's so annoying. And I want to be able to sort it by, like, read and unread, and it doesn't have any of that. So I'm trying to get those books listened to so I don't have to deal with that stupid app anymore. So my point was, like, Spitting Gold was one of those books. And it's another, like, magical book. My mind is, like, blanking on what it's even about. I already started another book by T. Kingfisher, which is also, it's When a Sorceress Comes to Call, I think is what it's called. So that book has already, like, taken the place of whatever Spitting Gold was about. Maybe I'll just cut this part out and pretend I did not start talking about the book I finished this month, and I'll tell you about it next time. Okay, I think that is everything that I have today. That was longer than I thought it would be, sort of meandering, but that sort of fits the theme so far for 2025 as far as what's happening inside of my head and with my crafting. We are going wherever our current whim takes us, finding comfort in whatever project seems like it will provide comfort. I have not been shopping very much. I'm sort of feeling right now like I'm in the phase where I want to just work on things that I have, which could become more of a necessity if the economy keeps going the direction it appears to be going and we continue in, you know, a trade war. But I have plenty of yarn and cross-stitch supplies to get me through quite a few years if I need to. So, yeah, for now I'm just going to focus on working on whips that I have or starting new projects from stash. And I do still have the goal to try to work on all of my projects at some point this year, so that is, I'm keeping that. But I'm just going to go wherever the mood takes me. That's what I'm doing. I hope that you are finding some comfort in your craft. You know, or if not, you're at least finding some somewhere and making some connections with the community. I know social media can be very overwhelming right now. I have, like I mentioned before, I've stopped using Instagram as much as I used to. I took it off my phone, actually, so I'm only looking at Instagram when I intentionally, like, open up my laptop and go to Instagram. I also deleted permanently my Facebook account, so I think they wait like a month to actually delete it, but it's gone. I deleted Goodreads and switched to the Storygraph. I did join Bluesky. However, I had Instagram pretty well curated to be mostly just craft stuff, and Bluesky is showing me a sort of befuddling mix of craft stuff with political things from, like, a lot of accounts that I probably used to follow on Twitter, because I used to have Twitter set up to be like, if I feel like learning about politics, I'm going to open Twitter. If I feel like being in a cozy crafty space, I'm going to open Instagram. I got rid of Twitter a long time ago, and now Bluesky feels like it's sort of wedging me back into that space, which is not a space that I want to be in if I'm trying to connect with my crafting people. So the moral is I'm just trying to be on social media less in general. I would like to keep my YouTube channel going, and I will be on Instagram here and there probably for the foreseeable future, and I'm on Bluesky sometimes too, but everything feels a little treacherous right now. So yeah, hopefully we can keep connecting here, and you can enjoy Bear's super chill vibes and they can rub off on you a little bit. And I hope you enjoyed today's somewhat messy video. If you were one of the winners of those 11 charts, please shoot me an email so I can get it in the mail to you. Otherwise, I hope you have the best day available to you, and I love you, and I hope that you are well. Okay, bye.